course, a very big event coming out later this month, the 16th of March. The Market Theatre Laboratory going to stage the Life Esidemeni tragedy to audiences, titled Isililo. The play will recount the collective trauma. And remember, there was a lot of people who suffered trauma, not just the victims, but their families as well, during the peak of the investigation that followed that tragedy. Well, let's find out more about the play and the significance, joined by award-winning actor, of course, and now, of course, you'll know him as a director, Siyambonga Mdubeki, joining us here on the show, actually. Siyambonga, good to have you with us. And not far to go, 16 March. Are we ready?
Yeah, we are ready. Yeah. That I would say, confidently, we are ready.
Tell me about why we want to do this, not just the dates, obviously, but the significance of the play and the reason why you're doing it.
Yeah, well, it's coming at the right time because we will be part of the human rights program at the Market Theatre Lab. So, I mean, like, this is lives that we're talking about. So it couldn't be any better time to bring this show that I think is a mouthpiece for the families that kind of lost their people during the Life Esidemeni incident.
It went beyond just the families, though, wasn't it? It was the communities that were shattered. Yes. I don't think people understand the gravity of this tragedy, do they?
Yeah, I don't think they do understand, especially... It's even worse that even after 6 years, nothing has been done. No one has been held criminally liable for what happened, and even though there's so much evidence that points out to who should be held accountable for what happened. But there's still inquest after inquest, and nothing is being done.
I think maybe just let's give some context to the viewers. 144 people at mental health care clinics, psychiatric facilities, if you will, around the country losing their lives. And this is so particularly devastating, not just because it's the healthcare sector, but because these are people who, from a psychological perspective, from a mental perspective, are so incredibly vulnerable. They lean on us as society and authorities to protect the most vulnerable.
And their rights were violated.
They were.
It's as though they don't have rights. So I think the most important thing about this show for me as well is to also say those people, in as much as they were in that state then, they still deserve to be treated like human beings. They have rights. They were supposed to live in good conditions. I was shocked when I was speaking, because I had a chance to speak with the family members that lost their loved ones during that time. It was so devastating to learn that there were people that were like in a garage, because these NGOs were not well equipped. They didn't have licenses, so it meant people were just taking a gig to receive some money from the government, so they
could just private household with a big garage.
At the garage. One gruesome story that I got was that there was a garage somewhere that could fit one car. They had like about 44 patients. They were living in that garage. They were eating there. They were doing everything there. And now you can imagine these people are suffering from different things, and because the care is not the care that they should be getting. So even when it comes to the medication they were receiving, sometimes they'll be just given Panado.
Yeah, not at all what the medication they needed, and also you didn't have experts who knew how to handle people in those circumstances.
Because these are people that were not trained to look after them.
They should never ever have been allowed anywhere near these members of society. But why go after this, Siyambonga? Why this play? What was it about the tragedy that made you wake up one day or sit with friends around a table and say, I want to do a play on this? Why this one?
I looked at it, and it was just one random day when I woke up to a headline that said at least 144 people died during Life Esidemeni. And I understand in English terms that's how journalists write. So for me, I was just disturbed by that, using the term at least when you've got so many people that have died. And because I'm a human being, I've got families. So I thought to myself, the news always have these headlines, but we never really get to understand how the victims feel about what happened during that time. So for me, as a human being, it's very cold. So for me, I was like, let me get these families and talk to them and actually hear how they feel after this whole thing. And it's a very disturbing story for me. So from then I was like, what can be my voice to help out wherever? I know it will go wherever until a certain point, but I was like, let me use my voice as a theatre maker to kind of tell this story, to be a mouthpiece for these people that cannot speak for themselves.
How do you translate a tragedy of this scale onto a stage?
One thing that people should expect to see, because I know when we talk of Life Esidemeni, people think the sadness, the tears, but I think what we've managed to do as the team was to translate the story and make it a very satire piece, like a piece that when you're watching it, you enjoy, you laugh, you cry with us. Like, it's a story about love, it's a story about dreams, it's a story about grief. when you're watching, you laugh with us, but at the end of the day, you'll go like, this is so bad that we are going through. Like, it's a story that will create conversations even beyond the stage. Like, for instance, I'm thinking of like one of the characters that people can even look forward to watching in the piece. Like, there's a lady called Cynthia in the piece, and she plays the love interest of Utina. And in that, we get to see how warm these people that were affected, but also it opens us up to this rapture and how things turn around when our lives are affected, especially by the thing that happened with Life Esidemeni.
Yeah, it wasn't on their own doing, and it turned the lives of 144 people and their loved ones and families upside down. I like the way you describe that it's not just, it's an obvious story of tragedy and grief, and that's one human emotion. What I'm getting from you is that actually what you've done is you've turned this on its head and gone, yes, that's one emotion, but there's a whole bunch of others as well. We mustn't forget about. They were human, not just a tragedy.
Exactly. And there's even one woman that we follow in the story as well. Like, because sometimes we find black women always find themselves at the center of these spaces that are not well equipped, that are dysfunctional, that kind of turn them into these people who are inhumane. And you realize that when you spend so much time in spaces like that, your first point of reference or to you always become inhumane because you're trying to survive in the space.
It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah, it's a coping mechanism. You wonder why these nurses are so angry, or they treat these ill patients in this manner. But you realize that it's the system. They are put in that system, and you realize how bad it is.
So who are we going to see playing key roles? Is there any actors or actresses that people should be looking out for?
Yeah, one, they should look out for me. I'm also playing in the piece.
Are you in it and you're directing?
Yeah, no, I'm writing and acting in it. So Ginger will be directing the part at the Market Theatre. But I'm playing alongside Vusi Nkwenkwezi as well as Sibahle Mangena, two incredibly talented actors.
And when is this running from? I know I mentioned the Market Theatre, but give us the details. Running from when to when?
It's running, we've got a preview on the 16th of March, and we're opening on the Friday, which is the 17th, until the 21st of March, because we're running in the week of human rights. But public can book tickets for the Friday until Sunday, because what we're trying to do also is to reach out to schools. The Monday and the Tuesday show is open to public schools that we have invited to come and see the work.
It's almost like a matinee show during the day almost as well.
Because also we believe that it's their right as kids to actually kind of get introduced to these things at an early age, so that they are aware of what we're really going through.
How close to, let me rephrase that, how far away from satire do you skirt towards becoming controversial? Because plays, we know in our country, obviously like to turn an issue on its head, but also send a message. It can't just be entertaining, it has to be thoughtful and provoking. And this is a very political story. It has been. It's been a political hot potato for many, many years. You know this. How close to controversy and to how badly this was managed by government do you go?
I mean, like, we in as much as you're going to find this play like very funny, because I think we, as I would say black people, or just in South Africa generally, our survival thing is humor. We always, whenever we're dealing with something that is somber, that is painful, we always try to find things that are funny so that we can cope through that whole pain. So through this satire play, you realize just how of a bad, because also we're taking elements of the things that actually happened during Life Esidemeni. So you will see all the things that the people went through, but we've just turned and made it a very like funny story. But in as much as it is funny, but it says, look at you.
Yeah, turn the mirror.
Yes.
Turn the mirror on itself as well. And those are the kind of plays that you should leave there also thinking, entertained, but also thinking as well.
Thinking about what we are going through.
As I say goodbye to you, you mentioned that in your thinking about doing this play, you spoke to some of the families, some of the victims' families. What was their response when you made contact with them, told them who you were, and that you want to do a play on this? What was their reaction to you?
I mean, they were very excited, especially that there's someone outside who's interested in this story, because for them they've been neglected for so long. I mean, it's been over 6 years now, and it's one story that made headlines then, and we've focused on other things now. So for them, they were happy to find that there's someone who's actually interested in actually helping them tell their story in a different way. Because I mean, like, we've seen them crying during the arbitrations, we've seen them crying to the ministers and everyone, but to then have another different medium to kind of push and help the story to still be a thing that people know that it happened and something needs to be done about it. So, because I'm still even in communication with them, every time we bring back the piece, we always talk to them and how do they feel now. And they still feel neglected. Because I mean, like after they were paid out, because I remember there was that 1.2 compensation after they lost their loved ones. I mean, like that money is gone by now. But the pain is still there. They still don't have their loved ones. So for them, it's quite an exciting thing to have people that are outside that are still kind of helping to tell their story.
Would any of them come watch the play?
They've been coming and they're still going to come.
Wow.
Yeah.
And reaction after they've seen it the first time?
The first time, they broke down. I remember the first time they saw it, it was at the Market Theatre. And for them, they were like, it's so sad that we sit here and laugh at this because remember, they experienced this firsthand. And so when they see those elements where we're making fun of the things that happened, but at the same time, telling the reality of things that went through during the Life Esidemeni, they broke down, but at the same time, they were like, we are glad you took this journey. We are glad that you're helping us to tell this story. Maybe then people will listen, because they feel like no one really listens to them now. Because I mean, like if someone did, by now, someone should be held accountable. I can tell you now for sure, in the next probably 2 or 3 years, the people that should be held accountable will resurface again somewhere. They will be deployed and probably change their maiden names and use their English names and continue serving the public somewhere else.
Sad reality, isn't it?
But what about the families?
What about the families? And this is why you're here. And I want to wish you all the very best for the 16th of March. I'm sure many people are going to come on and watch us, as many people as possible. It's just down the road here in Johannesburg, Market Theatre Laboratory, from the 16th of March till the...
Until the 21st. And people can get their tickets at Web Ticket. So you just search Isililo, buy your tickets. They're only selling for 100 rands. So just buy and come and support and actually view their work. Let's have the conversation. Because one thing for me, it's always to have the conversation even beyond what you see on stage.
All the best to you, your cast, and everyone involved, and congratulations. I'm sure it's going to be a smash hit as well. I wonder if we won't be able to send a camera out with Theo Mashele and come and take a look when you guys are on stage. All the very best. Thank you for coming in.
We would appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming in. Market Theatre Laboratory from the 16th to the 21st of March. Tickets available on Web Tickets. Go and look out for Isililo. It's the Life Esidemeni tragedy on stage. As you hear, it is a different take on this. It delves much deeper into how these families feel now and how they felt all those years ago. My thanks to actor and writer and director Siyambonga Mdubeki joining us here on eNCA.